I was house sitting for my grandma one weekend while she went to Florida with some of her church friends. I was sleeping in the guest bedroom next to her room. The guest bedroom always had two twin beds inside, the ones my brother and I used to sleep in during sleepovers at her house. I took the bed next to the window. Before getting into bed, I checked all the doors, making sure they were locked. When I finally did get into bed, it was still early, and I didn't actually go to sleep for a while. There wasn't much to do at my grandma's house, so I was just on my phone for about an hour, watching videos, texting people, whatever. That's when I thought I could start hearing someone's voice outside. It sounded like a woman's voice saying, "Hello." I left the bedroom and inched my way closer to the front door, moving slowly because I was trying to listen. It was definitely a woman's voice, just going hello every 10 seconds or so. As I got closer to the front door, I realized that's where the sound seemed to be coming from. My grandma's door doesn't have a peephole, but the windows in her dining room give a clear view of the front porch. I went over to one of those windows to try and get a look at who was out there. I tried peeking my head between the plastic blinds without making it obvious. But I guess I didn't do a good job of that, because when I looked, I saw a woman standing on my grandma's stoop, and she was looking right at me, as if she knew I'd be looking through the blinds. Once again, she said hello, with this freakish smile on her face. This woman was older, but don't picture some innocent-looking, sweet old lady. She looked like she was maybe in her late 50s or early 60s, and something about her face just skeeved me out. I moved away from the window, thinking maybe it was one of my grandma's friends. But it was midnight. Why would anyone come to the door at that hour? And why wouldn't she knock or ring the bell? Why was she just standing there saying hello over and over? I was genuinely unsettled. I went back to the guest bedroom and shut the door, something I hadn't done before. And with the door shut, I couldn't hear the woman anymore. Maybe she had left. I started texting everyone about it. My sisters, my friends, telling them how bizarre it was. My sisters were telling me to call Grandma, but there was a 0% chance she was awake. She barely ever even checked her cell phone anyway. Just when things had gone quiet and I was starting to calm down. Bang! Something slammed into the window. Not a knock, not a tap. Banging. I felt that fierce pain in my chest as my body entered full-on fight-or-flight mode. Shortly after the banging stopped, I heard that familiar voice again. Hello. With that rush of adrenaline, I guess I had the extra confidence to grab the blinds and push them up. There she was, face to face with me, only a thin layer of glass between us. That same horrifying older lady, still smiling. I screamed at her through the window, "I'm calling the cops!" Then I yanked the blinds back down and ran out of the room to the living room. I looked around the house, then bolted upstairs to the guest bedroom up there and locked myself in. I didn't actually call the cops. I don't know why. I guess I just wanted to wait it out. I crawled into bed and tucked myself under the covers. A couple of hours passed. I still couldn't sleep. Eventually, I went back downstairs to check outside each window. The freaky old lady was gone. The next morning, I called my grandma and told her what had happened. She started yelling into the phone, clearly panicked and distressed. She told me that just a few days earlier, she had been watched in the grocery store by some woman about 10 years younger than her, who just kept smiling at her for no reason. I told her to calm down. I didn't entirely know whether to connect the two events, but after we hung up, I couldn't stop thinking about it. My grandma is 75. She's lost a bit of her wits, so I do take some of the things she says with a grain of salt. But the way she yelled into the phone about the woman in the store, it really gave me the chills. I still wonder if it could have been the same person. I live in a small, peaceful town. I don't live in a place where you have to worry about walking alone at night. I share a one-story house with my sister, but she's hardly ever home. She has another place in Florida where she spends most of her time. There's about 100 to 200 feet between each house on my block, and then there are some woods across the street. I have a daily routine. I get home from work, make dinner, shower, relax a little, then go for a run. After that, I come back, have a light snack, then go to bed. It was a work night like any other. I was going for my nightly run. When I came back to my house, there was a random white van parked across the street. I took notice of it because hardly ever do random cars park on any of these streets. Our little neighborhood has very little through traffic. I looked at it as I walked backward toward my front door, and I could tell there was someone sitting inside, though I couldn't see anything specific regarding what they were doing. I don't know if the glass was tinted or if it was just because it was dark out. Later that night, I started hearing some weird sounds coming from outside. It was like a scraping sound. I looked out my window and called out, "Hello?" And it stopped. I had no idea what it could be, but my first guess was the neighbor doing something in his yard. I went back to whatever I was doing, and that was the end of the night. The following day was a Friday, the last day of my work week. After work, I proceeded with my regular schedule. I went on my nightly run a little earlier since it was Friday, and I had plans with some friends. I got back from my run, half expecting the van to be there again, but it wasn't. That night, I went out with my friends to a comedy club and didn't get back until late. I let myself into the house and locked the door. It had been a long night, and I was feeling tired, so I hurried through getting ready for bed. After turning off the bedside light in my room and laying down, that's when things were finally quiet enough for me to pick up on some weird thumping and rustling sounds. I felt like they were coming from inside the walls. It's only a 2-bedroom house. It's not big. I put my ear up to one of the walls, and indeed, I heard something going on in there. I knocked on the wall and the noises stopped. This was a cause for concern, as I assumed it was a rodent or a wild raccoon. I went out to the living room and, while passing by the windows, I looked outside and saw that white van parked outside again. I opened my front door and stepped out onto the front stoop to look at the van. I didn't see anyone sitting in it this time. 2 nights in a row of this. Now something was definitely going on. I walked barefoot to the side of my house to look for possible holes in the walls for animals to crawl through. Then I came to the outside crawl space door. It was cracked open, and the lock was snapped off. I hadn't paid attention to this door in weeks. I pulled it open a little more, and without a phone or flashlight in my hands, all I could do was lean inside and squint my eyes into the pitch-black crawl space. I heard the faintest little sounds of pebbles scraping against the concrete floor. At first, my naive mind was thinking it was an animal, until the sounds turned more aggressive and more closely resembled human footsteps, marching toward the crawl space door. And then, just barely, I could see a person crouch walking toward me. I slammed the door and twisted the knob, but without a lock, it wouldn't do anything. I ran back inside my house and called the police. While on the phone, I instantly attributed the crawl space door to the scraping sounds I had heard the night before. The next time I went to the window, while still on the phone, the van in the street was gone. Police came, and I showed them the crawl space. We had to use flashlights as the crawl space doesn't have any lights installed. We found something disturbing in the left corner. There were cut marks in the roof of the crawl space, as if the intruder was trying to saw his way into the house. The only info I could give them was the white van parked in front of the house. We don't have cameras, nor did I see what he or she even looked like. They never came back, though. I'd imagine because I caught on to what was probably supposed to be a silent operation.